tie and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
Happy talkback lawyer time because David Whiting is here in the studio with me. David, good morning.
Good morning, Virginia.
Had a bit of homework from last week.
I did. I had one allocated and one assumed. So we had a gentleman called who had two residences on a single block in Richmond, and he created a separate title for the second one, but didn't increase it's not like he pulled the house down and built two houses. There were already two there. And what happened was the council took his parking permits away.
All of them?
Yes. And the answer is that that's a policy that's been in a council for at least 8 years. If you subdivide, you lose your parking, and the reason why you lose it is that when they brought the policy in, they expected an extra 30,000 residents in the area within a 20-year period. So their view was
they can't all end up on the street.
We've got to create room for people before we create room for cars. So that's the policy. I think that's worth an exemption in his case because he didn't create space for more people.
Yep.
He simply created two titles for two existing houses.
Right.
So I'd push a little harder. Then the other one was Vanessa from the city. Vanessa rang her daughter wanted to be a football trainer, and she's been trying to get some work, and the real question is, does she get paid? Does she not get paid? And the advice is that if you are doing work for which somebody would... there's something called a vocational placement, and if there's a vocational placement, it needs to be organised through your institution. It needs to be one that for which there is no option of payment. And if that's the case, then you don't need to be paid, but you can't negotiate a pay that's less than the award rate.
Right.
So they can't offer and you can't accept. If there's an entitlement to be paid, then it's got to be at the award rate. The award would probably be the Health Professionals and Support Services Award, and that's if you're in that industry, but also if you hire someone to perform one of those roles. So Vanessa, that's where I'd be looking.
Okay, 1300 222 774 is the number if you'd like to call in. And Sid in Williamstown actually called earlier in the week, I think, was it last week? The days are running together now, with a problem. And I said, call back when you were here. And so he has done so. Hi, Sid, go ahead.
G'day, Virginia. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Far away, Sid.
Thanks, David. Yes, so I was caught up in the linked scam, the linked text message scam where I missed the toll. They said I owed $3.53. Stupidly, I clicked on the link. The website looked identical to the linked website. I paid my $3.53. My details were stolen. There was a fraudulent transaction in Brisbane of $2,318. I found it on the day that it occurred, rang the fraud department at NAB. They were excellent. They said, look, we'll investigate. You should get your money back, but it might take a month. I had a number of other calls with them, and then I received a letter last week to say that I had breached the terms and conditions of the electronic banking terms and conditions. And as such, NAB does not accept liability and unable to progress my claim.
Yes.
So I rang the only next option. You speak to fraud again and you can lodge a complaint.
Yes, you've done that.
I lodged a complaint on Friday.
Yep.
I rang to see how that complaint was going. They hadn't actioned that complaint, so I had to action it again this morning.
Okay, can I say you probably have breached the requirements of the code, but
right.
I wouldn't stop there. I would have thought that there was time at which the bank could have stopped or reversed the transaction. If the bank doesn't give you what you want, I'd be talking to AFCA. AFCA, AFCA, Australian Financial Complaints Authority.
Right.
And they have the ability to put in place a determination that overcomes the bank's position.
Right.
So if you don't get what you want now, I mean, to me the biggest problem is that the bank didn't move quickly enough when you lodged your complaint. And the question I would want to know was the amount recoverable at the time you lodged your complaint, not a month later.
Well, yes. So I found the transaction on the day that it occurred. I found it about 7 p.m. The actual transaction, they told me, happened about 1:30 p.m.
Yes.
But I thought the bank also had a legal responsibility to report suspicious activity because the transaction happened in Brisbane. I live in Melbourne. But the other thing,
I don't think that in this day and age that makes a bit of difference, Sid. I look at some of the transactions I undertake on my credit card, and I can tell you they're not all in Melbourne. They're not all in my suburb. They could be Adelaide, Perth,
So what?
America.
So Sid should just.
So
go,
Sid is, if he gets a knockback at the NAB
Yes.
fraud, he then goes to AFCA.
Okay, and they're easy to find.
Absolutely, AFCA.
All right,
You search it, it's there.
Sid. Good luck with that. Kevin in Heathmont. Good morning.
Oh, good morning. Thank you, firstly, David, for your very entertaining and informative segment, which I enjoy. I think a lot of people do. David, I'll try and make this simple. I recently took a domestic flight to Queensland. I often travel with a bike, and I assumed that if they did catastrophic damage to that bike, they would bear some responsibility. I've been travelling with bikes for 20 years, never had any real dramas. But this time they did $1,400 worth of damage, and they've basically told me bad luck.
Have you had a look at their terms and conditions in relation to baggage, Kevin?
I have.
How does that help you or not help you?
I couldn't find it, but they said that somewhere in the terms and conditions it excludes damage to basically any valuable goods, I guess, is the best way of putting it.
That makes no sense at all, Kevin. I would
They've
keep
got
going.
an obligation
at the
to
airline.
take care of it.
Well, I think I do. Virginia, there's a truly beautiful YouTube video
Yes.
on someone on an airline that smashed a guitar, and somebody's
I think I
written
might
a
have seen
song
that.
about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
So you keep pressing, Kevin.
What's quite annoying too is that it's a specifically designed bag, and if you saw it, it's probably not a good term for airline, but it's basically bomb-proof. So to do that amount of damage, something significant happened. Like this is not just throwing it off the
It's not falling off a
conveyor or
trolley.
whatever.
No,
not at all.
Yeah.
No, much more than that.
So I keep going, Kevin. If you don't get what you want, I'd be looking at VCAT. But look really carefully at the terms and conditions, and look at there might be something on the website for the bag that you bought which would indicate the kind of pressure it should be able to take. And I just think from what you've described is the bag got deliberately or otherwise abused during the process.
And I really hope that's not the case. Good luck. I hope that's helpful. John in Elstonwick. John, what's the problem there?
Good morning. So this is known as corporation issue. I'm in a block of 4 units, all similar, and we have our owners corporation manager has been attempting for some years for a debt recovery from one of the unit owners. Now, I've been in these units for 22 years. The particular unit has been empty for the entirety of that period, and who knows how long before that. The original owner we never met. He's long deceased, probably 15 years deceased, and now it's under the control of his son. He has always been slow paying, doesn't pay the full amounts for insurance and owners corporation. And I just got a letter last night from our owners corporation manager. It says they've looked at a VCAT application. However, the property is not in the son's name. It's still in the deceased father's name, and it says she says we've looked at placing a caveat on the property.
You don't.
And
There is no need to lodge a caveat because they already have a priority interest in the land.
Yep.
I would probably be talking to state trustees.
Right.
And because state trustees is the default administrator for every estate for which no executor is appointed. Right?
Right.
So what you might do is to agitate, you might go to state trustees and says, here's a property, no one's applied, no one appears to have applied for a grant of representation of the will. What we want you to do is step in and administer the estate, please.
Okay, because that's sort of, it says the body corporate or owner corporation managers more or less said basically means you're replaced as an administrator of the property, and we can make the decision to sell or rent the property and recoup the debt,
Yes, you can.
including any costs.
But you would be better off selling it, would you not? That would bring the whole matter to an absolute end. So I would be looking at state trustees as where I would try and get them involved. You might also look at Supreme Court website, supremecourt.vic.gov.au. On the right-hand side, wills and probate, search the application and see if someone's applied for a grant of representation for the estate.
Good luck. Hope that's helpful, John. Good on you. Lawrence in Mount Martha. Lawrence, you've got a bit of a drainage issue there. Go ahead.
Good morning, David and Virginia. Yes, about 12 months ago we started renovating in Mount Martha. We were held up for many months because each time it rained, everything flooded. I couldn't understand how, even small amounts of rain would cause that amount of flooding. Eventually, we discovered that there was an easement on the other side of our back fence that runs through other neighbours' properties and a council drain. And I realised then that's what was happening, that we were getting flooded.
Is it the council or South East Water?
Council.
Okay, so the easement is in favour of council. Whatever is in the easement belongs to council. Is that right?
Okay, so they came, once we realised that was happening, we got on to them. They did come within, 2 or 3 weeks. They unblocked the drain. We've had no problems since. The builder estimates that it's cost us at least $20,000. We've had to put in our own additional drainage because we just couldn't understand how much, why all this water was coming down. We couldn't get the footings in for months. It flooded a little office we've got also that's not part of the renovation. But so we're
Lawrence, you have a claim against the council for the damage that was caused. Right. Now, one would have thought that, but I don't see that you've got a claim against the council for the extra work that you went to because you couldn't find where the damage was coming from.
Okay.
Because the argument would be that wasn't necessary.
But what about a cause to compel council to fix that drain?
Well, council has now fixed the drain.
Well, they've now fixed it.
But Peter's problem Lawrence's problem in part was that for a lengthy period of time they couldn't understand where the water was coming from.
I get that. And so you got the flooding damage. So how do you go about making that claim, David?
Well, I would be writing a letter of demand to council. If you don't get what you get with council, I would go to the Ombudsman. And if that doesn't work, then it's an action under the Water Act against the council and more jobs for VCAT, because that's where you have to go for drainage.
Well, hopefully not VCAT. And who's the Ombudsman, David? What Ombudsman for who?
Her name is Deborah Glass. She is the Ombudsman for the state of Victoria.
Oh, okay.
All right, so if you just type into your search engine Ombudsman Victoria, there she will be.
Good luck.
And she's a person who helps you negotiate issues with councils and government departments.
Thank you so much. Tom in Dunkeld. Hello, Tom. What's happening?
G'day, Virginia and David. I've got a question. I had a verbal agreement with my neighbour to build a fence. I went ahead and built the fence. Cost about $12,000 for materials and labour. And subsequently, the neighbour has died under suspicious circumstances, and I haven't been able to get my half of the payment for the fence. So I was just wondering how I go about trying to access that.
You would make a demand on the executor of the estate.
Right.
So
who do I find out who's the executor?
I would be looking at the caller we had before. I would be looking at, that was from John from Elsternwick, supremecourt.vic.gov.au. How long ago did the neighbour die? In the last couple of years?
Oh, yeah, in the last...
I'm a bit cautious, Tom. You said suspicious circumstances. Let's spread this as wide as we possibly can.
Yeah, let's be careful here.
So you look right-hand side of the Supreme Court website, wills and probate. It starts with how to apply. Click on that. Then you have the ability to search advertisements that might have been placed. So you're searching for probate advertisements, and that will tell you who the executor is.
Right. Okay. Well, I've gone in there and I've searched the name of the deceased neighbour, and nothing pops up.
I don't want you to search. I don't want you to search what's called the application index. I want you to search the advertisement issue index, and it will give you a list of everybody who has advertised their intention to apply for a grant of probate since 2009. right now, and that will give you the name of the applicant, and if they have a lawyer acting for them, the name of the lawyer
Of the
who's
lawyer as
acting
well.
on the estate.
Otherwise,
Yep.
and will the applicant have an address attached there as well? How to
No, it'll
contact
have
that
a
applicant?
firm name for the lawyer,
Yep.
or if they're self-represented, a name and an address.
Right.
And the other thing you can do is search the Government Gazette for advertisements.
Hope that's helpful, Tom. Good luck with it. Tim in Rye. Hi, Tim. Go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My question is, the last of my parents passed away this year, and there's a lump sum of money which is to be divided equally 5 ways amongst the 5 siblings. Apart from the money, there's actually a painting that's quite
Valuable?
quite valuable. Yeah, it's 150 years old, so it's
old.
it's been valued at $10,000.
What's the painting? Can I ask who it's by?
It's by Horton Forrest.
Uh-huh.
He was
We're
He
nodding,
actually-
but
my-
not
my-
knowingly, Tim.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
yes.
Not that but anyway, $10,000.
What's the question?
Anyway, $10,000 has been valued at. Now, in the will, it's been stated that we're all 5 equal owners,
Yes.
and we've been offered that we can buy it out. Anyone can buy it out
Yes.
from the other ones at $2,000 per person.
Yes.
My situation is, if more than one person wants the painting, I'm quite keen to get the painting because it's been passed on from father to son, so to speak.
So it would be a bidding war, Tim. We've got an asset in the estate that belongs to 5 people. If I was the executor, I'd come along and say, each of you make me an offer.
Really,
And-
but that would be in excess of what it's actually worth.
No, you
wouldn't it?
could make an offer for whatever you like. But if a beneficiary, if you simply offer 2.5, for example, the executor might say, well, I'm doing the right thing by everybody if we could sell it on the market because they'll all get a bit more.
Well, I'm expecting that everyone's going to want their $2,000, which would cost me $8,000. Like my fee sort of is negated of the $2,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'd have to pay out $8,000 to
Yes.
my 4 siblings.
Yes. Now, in the event that that doesn't work, there's a process again at VCAT for co-owned goods. So
Okay,
if there's a dispute between you as to, and there will be an order made for sale. So my view is go to the executor and work out what kind of offer you want to make, or talk to your siblings and say, does anybody want it?
Could you share it between you? 6 months on your wall and 6 months on mine?
No, I don't think that would really work, and it's not sort of artwork that you want to be passing around. That's how damage happens. So yeah.
Well, if it's transported well.
No,
that's fine.
it's for ownership only. Like some won't be interested in it, but will be interested in the money. Others probably would like it, but are far better off in a financial position than I am.
It's a landscape, so what's it a landscape of?
It's actually Ben Nevis in Scotland.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right.
He's quite an interesting fellow. He came out here in 1880, but he was in India as part of the conquering of India, and then he went to Jamaica and had a plantation in Jamaica.
All right,
and
we'll
ended up-
leave the history just because we've got people waiting with legal problems, but good luck. I hope that's helpful. But nice to know there's a nice piece of art in the family. Jim in Heidelberg. Hi, Jim, what's going on?
Good morning. We had solar panels installed on a second floor terracotta tile roof, 20 years old, at the end of 2018. It was under the Victorian government incentive arrangements, so the provider and the installer was obviously approved. We discovered a leak about a year later and spent a bit of time trying to find out what that was. Well, oh boy, have I still got you?
Yep,
Yeah,
we're still
we're
here.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The leak, we thought at first was a possum. But anyway, it was a mystery until May 2020 when a builder doing other work informed us that there was damage to the tiles under the solar panels.
Yes.
We put in an insurance claim in November 2021.
So where are we at now, Jim? Has the insurance company said no?
They did initially. We've had some discussion. They've reviewed and they've accepted partial liability. But I emailed them on April 14th this year. Please respond. they're just slowballing. They said they're busy with New South Wales and Queensland and they'll get back to us.
Yes.
It's just not happening.
Yep. But your claim is not against the insurance company. Your claim is against the person who did the installation. So I would be trying to put as much pressure as I could on them.
Look, I've written to them and they've just ignored. I tried to do it politely,
Okay.
but I'm mystified because if this were car insurance and I had a claim, it would be against my insurer, and if anybody else bore responsibility, they'd pursue them. Doesn't that happen?
No, but this is their insurance company you're making the claim against.
So what do we do here, David?
You keep going, but I must say this isn't a job for VCAT.
No.
This is a job, if anything, it's for the Magistrates Court, Jim, which will cost you a fair amount of money because it's an action for damages, an action that isn't taken at VCAT. So there's also an Insurance Council of Australia. You might see if the insurer is a member of the council and make a complaint about the slow processing at the particular insurer, given that it's a claim that you've known about and made over 18 months ago.
Does the government, who puts people for solar installations on a list of approval, do they bear some responsibility for oversight of the work that they carry out?
They do not guarantee the performance of the approved contractors. Right. Now, we learnt that when we had the pink bats problem, but where you get to is that you've got a situation where there's probably 10,000 installations and 5 problems. So no claim against the state government.
Sorry about that. Peter in Frankston, you'll be our final call this morning. What's going on, Peter?
Hello.
Peter, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I thought I wasn't ever going to get there. Hello, David. And Virginia. I'm calling on behalf of a friend and a colleague in a men's shed in the southeast of Melbourne. His bank account and the sheds were subject to a cybercrime in August, and he lost a significant amount of money, and so did we. He disputed it almost on the 24 hours after the transaction he thought happened. The bank was able to refund him all of his money.
Yeah.
But they then asked us to go through the dispute process, which has taken over a month, and they offered us a third of the
Keep
damages.
going, Peter. If you don't get what you want from them,
we went to AFCA.
Yes,
David, we've been to AFCA. We've lodged a complaint with AFCA. They have raised the stakes to half the amount that we lost. My problem is that we don't understand how they can completely refund my friend's money on a personal account, but they won't, and they won't consider refunding the shed's money.
You would need. I'm not
basis.
sure. Is the men's shed an incorporated association, Peter?
It is. Yes.
That might be the issue. You might not have the same rights at AFCA. I'll take it as homework. I'll deal with it next week.
It's a business account compared to his as a private account.
I will deal with the
an
AFCA
important
issue.
point too.
Okay, I'll deal with that for next week.
All right, that's homework for next week. Good on you, Peter. So stay listening next week. David, great to see you.
Thank you.
David Whiting there, always helping you with legal challenges.